All right, hey everyone. This is John here with the Brothers of Metal, and we got another exciting episode for you here. We're going to do our next set of Desert Island picks. Previously, we did our top 5 Desert Island albums, or really our top 5 albums personally, of all
Yep.
time. And we're going to move on now to number 6 through 10.
Yep. So we're assuming that somehow we would be able to attain 5 more albums. Not sure how
That's
that
right.
would happen, but
Well,
let's-
UPS, they've expanded their territory, so it worked out in our favor. So
let's say someone flew by, they didn't take the time to rescue us, but they parachuted down a few more CDs for us.
yes, that was nice of them. All right, without further ado, bro, I'm gonna let you get started here. What's your next pick?
All right, so these again are in no particular order. It was harder to pick the next top 5, but this one almost cracked my original top 5. So good to go with Blind Guardian, Beyond the Red Mirror.
Huh.
Now this is a Blind Guardian album you didn't care for. It's by far my favorite Blind Guardian album. I'm more of a fan of the newer Blind Guardian. So from the album before this.
Before that was
At the Edge of Time.
At the Edge of Time, yeah.
So I'm a big fan of, I guess, really just At the Edge of Time, Beyond the Red Mirror, my 2 favorite Blind Guardian albums. This one is one of the most epic metal albums I've ever heard. It has a lot of orchestra stuff mixed in. Quite a few of the songs were actually used on their orchestra album. So, but they just sound much better as metal songs. For me, it's just like the I don't know at all what the story's about, but I feel like I'm entering the Chronicles of Narnia. I feel like I'm in Lord of the Rings. I think it's a sequel to Imaginations, which is a story you really liked, but that had like elements of Lord of the Rings and Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland. Just they had everything, and this album just really takes me away. And I love fantasy stuff, and I just thought that this was their best collection of songs. It's their most epic sounding songs. And man, it's catchy with the orchestra in the backgrounds. I love Holy Grail, The Throne, Twilight of the Gods. Like it's just so cool. So it's an album I've listened to like 100 times, and every time I just love it, and I never get tired of it. So I had to go with one Blind Guardian album, and that's the one I picked.
Wow, cool. Yeah, that one still hasn't quite resonated with me. And I could not, in all, honesty, say it's a bad album.
Yeah.
It sounds great. I don't. To me, it's just because at the Edge of Time, to me, it was just so perfect and such a welcomed return, especially from Twist and the Myth.
Yeah.
Which was for me at the time like just such a disappointment from A Night at the Opera. And yeah, it's just a lot. it's a lot of album to take in. Just
it is. Production-wise, it's
story.
like the biggest thing they've ever done. That's why.
Yeah, it sure is. And it's like you could almost see why this most recent record, it's not any maybe less bombastic or whatever, or, intricate, but it's tamed as far as the kind of overall arrangement, I think.
Yeah, I think it's stripped down for sure.
Yeah, it's a little bit more stripped down, a little bit more like Imaginations, or Somewhere Far Beyond, something in that vein. Definitely a little bit more guitar focused than kind of the sort of the whole package, with the orchestra and and all the stuff like that.
I love where they were going with the orchestra album. I mean, with this album with the orchestra, I almost wish they didn't release the orchestra album, because then I've already heard 3 or 4 of the songs, and it just makes me want to listen to Beyond the Red Mirror again. So
yeah, I guess I gotta explore that Twilight Orchestra record a bit more, because I did not know there was any connections between that and Beyond the Red Mirror.
Yeah, because they just took sections of it.
Oh,
because it took them so long to make that orchestra album, like 20 years. So I think they may have used more, maybe stuff from, they may have used some stuff for At the Edge of Time too. I'm not
Well,
100% sure, but
they started the orchestra record writing process way back during Nightfall.
yeah.
And originally they were talking about the orchestra record was going to be a Tolkien themed
I wish.
project of some sort. Yeah, I think
I
we
know
all
that's
wish
what we were
that.
hoping for. We were hoping for a Lord of the Rings thing, but
Yeah.
just didn't
Yeah.
happen. And they
But,
did some story I've never even heard of, and
Yeah.
I was so disappointed.
But okay, so let me go with my Blind Guardian pick then.
Okay,
Because
cool.
yes, I would need one of these too for
I
my
think
next,
I know where that's
in my
where
next
it's
set,
going.
but it's easily, hands down, going to be Nightfall in Middle Earth.
Okay.
And I would like this exact CD too, by the way. I'm going to cheat a little bit like I did with Streets. Like I want this package specifically because you get the 2007 remaster,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get the whatever year this was, 2019 complete remix.
It's remixed. See, I didn't like the remixes. I thought the original sounded better. I was really
Well, then you got
disappointed.
both. You got both.
Oh yeah,
I'll share with
course,
you.
but-
You can have the remaster. But
Sweet.
I thought, especially like the bass was way punchier on this remix, which I really like because bass tends to get a little lost in more modern Blind Guardian.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's there's 3 bonus tracks really, but the 2 that were kind of unreleased, like entirely, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
Doom, which appears in some form on Beyond the Red Mirror. I'm not sure
Okay.
what song it
Oh
is. I
yeah.
forget.
See, I have to go back and listen to it because if I hear even a second of it, I'll be able to recognize. But
Yes, and then the Tides of War, which is fantastic. Like it's such a good song.
that is a good song.
Kind of further into the plot of the Curse of Feanor, so it's really, really neat. And then Harvest of Sorrow, which we've heard all these years, but the original, more acoustic version of Harvest of Sorrow on this set. But anyway, getting back to the actual record itself, one of my absolute favorite concept records. And if you understand just that, the smaller section of the Silmarillion, I think it's really easy to understand what's happening in this record. They're using a lot of plot devices and character names and stuff like that. I think it's easy enough to follow.
Yeah.
I love how it starts off post War of, or maybe pre-War of Wrath. It's hard to figure out, but the whole conversation between Sauron and Morgoth and the narration is incredible on this, right? I mean, we've heard some bad narration on some of those concept records you and I love.
Oh yeah, man.
But this is absolutely phenomenal. I believe these are the guys they used for the Twilight Orchestra project.
I think so.
Mistaken. Yeah. Just absolute pros. But I just love every guitar line on this record. It's so memorable, infectious. You can hum the solos back to yourself. They're that memorable. It's got everything that you know and love from Blind Guardian. Is, in my opinion, still their strongest release. So,
okay,
taking it back to you.
Nice, it's a good choice. Let's see here. I'm gonna go with a more mellow, progressive. I don't even know what you would classify them as. Progressive rock, progressive / metal is the Neil Morse band, Similitude of a Dream. This is where I discovered Neil Morse. Actually, Portnoy had posted something like this was one of the best albums of his career. And I was like, let me check it out. And it was just the intro song, and then it's really short, like vocal part, and then it goes into one of the main themes, the Long Day theme or whatever. And as soon as I heard the guitars, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy happens to be Eric Gillette. Just reminded me so much of like John Petrucci in his heyday.
Yeah.
And I had never checked Neil Morse out before, and then I eventually went and checked out his whole catalog after I checked out this album. But this came out around the time of The Astonishing, and it just steamrolled it. It was the best progressive rock album or / metal I've heard in years. It's one of the best ever. It's up there with Metropolis Part 2, in my opinion. The fact that it's like 2 albums in length, and there's not a single lull in the entire record. Like I said, Eric Gillette is just a phenomenal guitar player. Reminds me of John Petrucci's playing, where it's just, I've never heard a guitar tone so beautiful before. And then I love that they use 3 or 4 different singers. So there's so many influences from Styx to the Beatles to Kansas. I mean, it has so many styles of music within it, and it's just amazing from start to finish. I love the story. It's a Pilgrim's Progress, if you're familiar with that classic Christian tale. It feels like kind of like a Lord of the Rings type tale. It was really like one of the first fantasy / Christian, works, I guess, ever written, and it's just amazing. And some of Neil Morse's greatest writing. I think he's perhaps the greatest songwriter of our time. The guy's just a genius, and yeah, can't get enough of that album.
It has a similar framework to Snow by Spock's Beard and the First Testimony album, where you
he really started every concept album. He kind of follows a certain writing pattern. Even his newest solo album does the same thing. It always starts with that overture,
right,
and has all the different themes throughout the album, and then but it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really awesome. We had the chance to see it perform live, which was incredible.
Yep. Some of the best guitar solos I've ever heard in my life, and just melody wise, it's pure gold.
How does that first disc close out again? It's on the
it's one of my favorite songs, period. Oh, the Breath of Angels.
Yeah, Breath of Angels,
is one of the most powerful songs I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's a special one for sure. And they all knew it too as they were putting it out. And I remember too, Mike raving about it and stacking it up there with his top 5, with the Whirlwind and Metropolis Part 2. And it was like, normally you come into an album with that kind of expectation, you're going to be let down a little bit.
Oh yeah, because in this case, Mike does kind of brag about works, quite a bit before they come out, and they don't always pan out or live up to, his lofty expectations. But in this case, it was just exactly as he stated. It was that good. And it's funny that he didn't want it to be a double disc album, because he didn't want to make it seem like he was competing with Dream Theater. But man, I feel like they just destroyed.
It was a bit of a what's the word? It was kind of contemptuous, I guess, or there was a bit of rivalry about whether they should do the second disc, and there's some story about that you can look up, but it's pretty fascinating. You could hear kind of that ferociousness of Mike's playing on the first track of the second disc, and he talked about that because he was kind of upset.
Yeah, I think I want to say I watched the entire making of. Yeah, and they filmed, I guess, Neil's response right after they had like a big argument about it, and maybe Mike had like stormed out and stuff. I mean, as it turns out, it's a really good thing that they ended up going with the double disc, because
and then you have to wonder, they get to the next writing session, it was just like, we're just going to do another double disc, right? And everyone's like,
do it again.
But it's funny, that happened, I think, I don't know how much of a fight it was, but this is not the first time this has happened. It happened with Snow as well, where Snow was going to be a single disc, and I think it was just a matter of Neil had so many additional ideas that they just kept it going.
That's the thing. He has a million. I think he had like an extra hour probably of material for this album too, because he writes so many like short songs acoustically, and they're always great. I think he does release the extended versions on his Waterfall app or whatever it's called. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. But all right, my next one is The Astonishing.
No, please, no.
No, it wouldn't be the Desert Island pick, but I do love it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me introduce all the good people watching this to a band you've probably never heard of, and you, bro, and this is a record I would need to have, but a band that's just so underrated and just not talked about and just hardly discovered at all. But this is a band called Sea Surin. Sea Surin. And I'd like, if possible, we can put a link to their stuff in the description there when you post this. But I would love for this band to get some more exposure. So this is their first record, and it's called Where Memories Combine. Actually, it's funny. It's one of those records that has kind of the single title, And if you have the actual album version, you can see there's like a whole other paragraph. This is a continuation of the actual album title.
Oh, okay.
But
Is that called a subtitle? What is it called?
It apparently is the full name of the album, which we won't get into right now. But this came out in 2004. This is it's basically the brainchild of one guy. His name is Jay Lamb.
Okay.
And he's based out in, I think it's Louisiana. So yeah, a group of American guys, but he's just got so many really interesting ideas, and it's such an interesting record. To give everybody an idea of kind of the style, it's a really interesting cross between like Effort Gray, Pain of Salvation. There's some black metal influence. There's some folk influence. There's a lot of prog influence. It's very, very dark. It's very, very sad material.
Okay.
It's not a happy record by any means. This other thing he does, in the Honor Thy Father on Train of Thought. You know how there's that whole midsection where they figured out how to incorporate all those different movie quotes and stuff like that. This guy Jay has perfected that, and he would continue that on the follow-up record. And now we're waiting for the third record. It's been teased for years now, and I'm really looking forward to that. But I mean, it's been not exactly the most I can't think of the word right now, but they don't exactly come out with a lot of material.
Yeah.
At a high pace, but yeah, what it'll do is it'll have kind of just we'll have a very sparse kind of simple arrangement playing, while there's just a lot of voiceover stuff from different films that he's thrown in there. And my favorite is he throws some really special quotes from Blade Runner.
Okay.
On a track in here, and it's just so fitting. But his idea when I spoke with him about it was, there's times where if you're watching a movie and you have characters in a conversation and there's background music, your attention's going to be on the actors having the conversation. The background music is just kind of there to support it. And so he's sort of done the opposite when he does that, where it's like, the music is, you want to continue to follow the theme and the progression and stuff like that, but then you sort of have this background chatter.
Okay.
Which you can make out, but in his vision, it was meant to be kind of the opposite of what you would get from watching a movie where you have like a soundtrack in the background. So anyway, I can't recommend this band highly enough. There's not a lot of material to check out if you're at all interested. And if you're just a fan of just, dark, kind of brooding, progressive metal, with a lot of different influences, check them out. Caesarean.
Sounds good. All right, my next pick. Had to throw another Dream Theater record in there, and I'm going to throw
Hey, what do you know?
Dream Theater, Train of Thought, just as you just mentioned.
All right.
Yeah, this is just an album, because we're talking Desert Island albums. I wouldn't say it's my second favorite Dream Theater album, but it's pretty close. But it's the album. It's the album I want to listen to all the time from Dream Theater. It was probably the first album I really liked from them, other than maybe Images and Words. It's just it's their heavy record, but just musically, it was so interesting, and melody wise, it's one of my favorite Dream Theater albums. I like the heaviness of it. I like the more serious lyrical content, and yeah, it's just amazing. It has some of my favorite Dream Theater songs on it. I love Stream of Consciousness is probably my favorite instrumental, and then I love Honor Thy Father, and am I forgetting here?
The Name of God.
Oh, this Dying Soul might be at least maybe my first, or at worst my second favorite of the 12-step songs, and just love it. It's almost a perfect record. And it's a record they wrote in like a couple weeks. If you watch like the making of, or at least they wrote all the music in a few weeks, which is remarkable. But you could tell it feels like it's all just completely jammed out. Like they wrote the songs just completely spontaneously and improvisationally, and that's why you could really hear it and feel it.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome for sure. Okay, next for me, I'm gonna need a little bit of lighter fare while we're there.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not gonna go Sarah McLachlan again like I did last time, but I gotta hold up a vinyl here. Hold on. Snow by Spock's
Oh.
Beard here. So big, I can't even fit it.
It's got like 4 discs.
It is a 3-disc vinyl, that's for sure.
3 discs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it also has the CDs in this collection here. So I guess we do have a CD player as we've established. So I'll just pull those out.
Yep.
Anyway, just to show the image art, but yeah, Snow is my favorite Spock's Beard album. And it's
Mine
real
too.
close for me with the Similitude, and I haven't mentioned the Similitude, so I'd have to say Snow would be my favorite Neil Morse composition. I go to this record all the time, and I just love the emotional ups and downs and those peaks and valleys of this poor character, and
Yep.
but it I love how you're getting kind of those themes that appear and then return later. Some of them sort of reappear a little bit sadder, a little bit darker, whatever.
Yeah.
Nick's voice on this thing, love it. I mean,
That's true. When he's singing
Carrie,
stuff that Neil Morse has written, it's amazing.
It is. So like Carrie and Looking for Answers.
And then singing with Neil on Wind at My Back, or when they harmonize too, is awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's tremendous. And then ending the record with that Wind at My Back reprise, and it just gets bigger, and they add more words to it, and it's more triumphant, and it's just a huge celebration. And it's like, man, this record's a journey, though. I mean, you're in for it. Kind of like the Similitude. You're really putting in the full 2 hours there, and it's a lot, but it's such a reward, and everyone's at the top of their game from that band on this record. I think it was definitely, as you follow their discography, I think everything definitely so perfectly leads up to this sort of just magnum opus that they put out. And if I don't think it's a controversial opinion at all that Spock's Beard has not topped this, and probably can never top this.
No.
It is fantastic. So
I agree. It's a perfect album, and this is an album that you really could turn into a play or a movie.
Sure.
The story is vivid enough, and the music is just so good. And I like Spock's Beard's style to where Neil writes stuff that can be really, really sad, but he writes stuff that's borderline funny. They add a little bit of humor in their music, or a little goofiness, which he does on his solo stuff as well.
Yeah.
And it's just a nonstop fun record, and another record that has just a ton of influences. I mean, any style of music that you like, it incorporates it. And yeah, I love that album. I agree. I almost put it in mine. I wasn't even thinking about it. I put Similitude, but I had to have a Neil Morse album, but that would be my second favorite. All right. Actually, John, would you hold up the one? Kind of had to spoil the element of surprise, but for my number 9, it would be Threshold, Legend of the Shires. Now, this band, I can't remember when I first heard them. I knew who their previous singer was, Damian Wilson, because he sang with Russell Allen on Star One, and I didn't actually like his voice originally. And then I checked out their record that came out before Legend of the Shires, and I really liked it musically. I love their just their overall sound, the tone. It reminded me of Circus Maximus a little bit, or newer Circus Maximus, to where immediately loved the sound, and I like the songs. I forgot, maybe someone commented on Facebook, hey, Legend of the Shires is amazing. And I checked out the single, Small Dark Lines, I think it is. And I didn't even know they had a new singer. And they're kind of a weird band where they've had like 3 or 4 singers, but they've had, I mean, Damian Wilson was their singer and they brought him back. And then Glenn was their singer. They brought him back. They had one singer who unfortunately passed away, but I heard, as soon as I heard Glenn's voice, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And then I eventually went back and listened to the Damian Wilson stuff and really liked his voice. But they made a good choice probably going with Glenn. As much as I like Damian Wilson,
Glenn is special.
Yeah, his voice just really fit the material, and I think they just knew that maybe kind of going in, and it's just one of the best progressive metal albums I've ever heard, and it was an album that just really brought me in immediately. I just as soon as I heard the first single, I was roped in. I love the kind of the reoccurring themes they have. It's a really long concept album. I like the story's interesting. Every song is really, really unique sounding. There's again another album where there's a ton of influences. So if this is an album I have to pick on a desert island, I mean, whatever I'm in the mood for, this album will have it. And yeah, I've grown to really, really love this band, especially their newer sound with the bigger, better production and mix and different tone. They were kind of a little thrashy back in their early days, and I didn't quite love it once they got a little more progressive. And I love their songwriting. I can't wait for their new album. But yeah, I just can't say enough good things about this record.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's another one that would be a nice mix of just kind of uplifting, being uplifting listen, a bit of levity, with so much really, heavy thematic.
Yeah, it's heavy, but it's also poppy. I mean, it's so punchy sounding. Some songs sound like classic rock. I hear a Boston influence, and then Glenn's voice is so unique. He reminds me of Roy Khan at times. So there's just
reminds me of Tony Kakko at times, but just more British.
Yeah, a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of prog metal bands from the UK that I could really think of. So they were.
Yeah, you got Haken, you got Threshold.
Yeah. There's not too many, but they are great.
Amazing. All right, next for me is going to be, well, a band you're well familiar with, but might be less so to anybody tuning in, but that's going to be the debut record from Savior Machine.
Okay, nice.
This is kind of commonly referred to as, well, this is Savior Machine 1. I had to pick one. I mean, Savior Machine has been a huge influence on me over the years. I mean, every record is very unique. They don't have two albums that sound alike at all. I'd say SM1 is for sure the most accessible to just kind of the casual listener. But I have to admit, it's the one that stuck with me the most because it's easy to just kind of pick out songs that you just want to tune into, and over the years beyond this, their music probably got less metal overall. This is the most metal of the records, the first one. The songwriting is fantastic. The lyric writing is incredibly interesting and just very diverse throughout. If you've never checked out this band, I mean, it's hard to categorize. Wouldn't you agree, bro? I mean,
yeah, they're kind of in their own category for sure.
Yeah, but you might be familiar with Eric Clayton's voice if you recall Airion's The Human Equation. He played the voice of Reason, and very, very unique voice. And
it's almost like an opera style meets David Bowie.
Yeah, David Bowie was, in no disrespect to David Bowie, but if he was a more perfect singer, like he had his flaws, but he had a very unique voice.
Yeah, it's the character in his voice that's.
Yeah, the character. So it kind of the characteristics of like definitely a David Bowie, but with more the theatrics of like a Peter Gabriel. And not rarely is there any sort of like grit or kind of rasp that he uses. A couple times does he go there, but almost never. And it's so emotive and it's so unique. I mean, there's definitely not another singer that is like that. But
No.
but there's not another guitar player like Jeff Clayton. There's not another drummer like Sam. I mean, it's like it's a very unique band, and yeah, just a very, very interesting discography. If you ever want to take a deep dive, there's only 5 studio records.
Yeah.
So can't recommend this enough. I mean, and this is getting old now. This came out in '93.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, not sure you can. Well, probably buy a copy on eBay. I mean, this is not like anything you can find, that's
Yeah.
being pressed currently, but you can absolutely find it on, streaming services and of course on YouTube. So definitely check it out. And that's what I got.
Sweet. All right. So my number 10, I had to pick a Yorn album. Yorn Land happens to be my favorite singer, and I went with Master Plan Aeronautics.
But the first one?
That's the second one.
The second one.
Yeah, I think it's the best of the 3 Yorn albums. I almost went with Ark, Burn the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably my 2 favorite Yorn albums. When it comes to just pure performance-wise, I think he's possibly the best singer in the world, the most just pure gifted singer. The guy can sing anything with no effort at all. And he really is a combination of 2 of my favorite singers, Dio and David Coverdale. And it has my favorite Yorn song. If you haven't heard it, Black in the Burn is one of my favorite metal songs ever. It's just super catchy. I like Rollins' guitar playing.
Oh yeah, and his songwriting was great.
And his songwriting, he really is a great guitar player. It was just unfortunate that Yorn decided to leave that band. But this album is, when I first heard it, it was like Metal Foreigner to me. Really, really catchy choruses, almost like rock songs, but with a power metal twist to them. And every song is just super, super catchy, and enough of a progressive influence. A little bit longer songs, and great musicians. And Yorn is just in a league of his own when it comes to singers. And I love this record. I've listened to it a million times.
Great.
Yeah.
That was your 5, right?
That was my 5. Yes.
Your 5. Okay. So the last one for me, in no particular order, is going to be the latest studio record from Orphan Land.
Okay.
And this is Unsung Prophets and Dead Messiahs. And this is, I'm super late to the Orphan Land train, and but I just absolutely fell in love with this band. And this came out in 2018. But this was the record that did it. When I heard I don't know if it was the first single, but I was familiar with All Is One and a couple tracks from the record before that, but it didn't quite grab me yet. And I heard Like Orpheus featuring Hansi Kirsch from Blind Guardian. I was like, wow, this is cool. And I just, continued to check out their music, bought this record, listened to it. And eventually, I mean, it's just like, I almost would put this in my top 5 if we were redoing things. Like, I do not want to be without this record. And one of the main reasons for that is, besides the fact that musically it's exceptional, I think this is really, despite the fact that, I mean, they're already going on 30 years as a band. They are, so they're they're not, certainly the 2 founding members are not Spring Chickens anymore, but they still have, to me, they're still one of the most exciting bands in all of metal. And over the years, they've gone away from so much of the record being the death metal vocals, and there's a lot more singing now, which I appreciate. The production's exceptional, mixed and mastered by, well, as a matter of fact, co-produced and mixed by our guy JB.
Oh, JB.
Jens Bogren.
Yep.
This is when I started to figure out, like, Jens Bogren. He's like on everything, as I'm starting to discover,
anything
I really like
love,
the sound of that record.
Yeah.
Who mixed that? Oh, Jens Bogren again. That
Yep.
Fascination Street Studios, man, that place is just the best. But yeah, they started working with Jens on their previous record, All Is One, and between this and like Underworld, that's where I got the sense that Jens is just like, and I love Jacob Hansen, but
Mhm.
to me, Jens is just like, he's just the man. I mean, to
Yeah,
incorporate, there's a
he's on
lot.
he's on his own level. There's no doubt.
Yeah, there's so much going on this record between, actual choirs and actual
Yeah.
orchestra.
I don't know how he gets so much clarity in every
No idea.
every element. I mean, no matter how many layers there are to the music, everything shines through. That's the best way I would say.
Yeah. But so if you're not familiar with this band, definitely check them out. I mean, it's they call themselves Oriental Metal, where they
Okay.
incorporate a lot of I guess more traditional like Israeli folk and Mediterranean sounds and just
Okay.
everything from that region, which is why they refer to them as under that genre. But there's no one else like them. No one else really does this. But lyric, let me just say something about that real quick. So the record is loosely based on the allegory of the cave. And the timing of this couldn't have been more profound to me. So I'm not going to get into a political or discussion or anything of that sort. However, I thought about this record a lot, especially in 2020, and the implications for what the character was going through and what was being revealed to the character. And it's profound. It's so far ahead of its time. This is almost prophetic in a sense. I mean, Unsung Prophets is in the title. It's amazing. But just, it takes you through the whole story of how the character is, eventually tuned into the reality, leaves the cave, has to go back and tell his brothers. He asks him, I'm your brother's keeper. Yes, I'm responsible. He must tell them about the truth. And because he sounds like such a heretic, they kill him. And, if you know the allegory, that's essentially the story. But I love in the first song called The Cave, there's this line, and the line is so profound. And it says that one can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark, but one cannot forgive a man who is afraid of the light. Like, I want that on a
Could you get that
poster somewhere.
tattooed on me?
I would. Maybe the most profound line of lyric in anything I own. It's just it resonates so deeply.
Very
Anyway,
cool. It's awesome when you see bands who have been around for 25 plus years come up with their best material so late in their career. A couple of my choices, Blind Guardian, Beyond the Red Mirror was really late in their career. For Threshold, they've already released, 10 albums before Legend of the Shires, something like that. And they're still writing their best stuff, which is pretty amazing. You don't see that 100%. In any other genre of music, I don't think, other than metal.
No, I think you're right. And for Orphanland in particular, they lost. So this is only their 6th studio album, but on their 4th studio album was the last record with one of 2 founding guitarists, and then on the 5th record, All Is One. After that record, the other founding guitarist left.
Okay.
So they're coming out this new record with a lot of new songwriting influences. In my opinion, still put out their best work that they've ever done.
That's extremely rare. Usually, you have the core guys, and that's why you're able to kind of continue to get better. But when you bring in new guys, that's very rare that you produce your best stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. And and of everybody we listened to, I'd even say even more so than Symphony X, because I do have 9 records already. If it takes another couple of years, I guess I can live with that. With Orphanland, I'm just like, I'm more than anyone else looking forward to a new album.
Yeah.
So excited. So
yep.
When that will be, don't know, but I'm ready. I'm ready when they are. So, but I think that about does it. So that's our next 5.
Yeah.
Feel pretty good about it. I get comfortable. I got 10 CDs now. I suppose if that was it, getting more and more at peace with our situation. I
could survive, but we might have to do part 3 because there's still. As I'm holding albums up, I think of ones that I forgot and that may belong ahead of these, but I'm pretty happy with the 5 I picked.
Right on. All right. Well, Thanks everyone for stopping by. We'll be back with more and more content. I got lots of ideas, and
Yep.
thanks for following us so far on this journey.
Some reviews coming up next. So.
Definitely. All right. Well, until next time, I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
Thanks for stopping by and joining us on the Brothers of Metal, and we'll see you soon.